Good morning, everybody. It's Jillian. Woke up raring to go. I'm on my third year of the protocol of Jilly Juice that is known far and wide from here all the way to Timbuktu. And so I'm on my third year. Pretty much reversed all of my issues. I think I really did reverse the aging process within myself. And so even though Jilly Juice has a specific diet for those that are just starting, at some point you will reintroduce foods back into your diet, but don't do it too soon because it'll undermine you and stop any progress that you're doing. So definitely, if you're in the beginning, even in your second year, stay on the diet as much as you can. But I have found that being on my third year and my systems are so perfect and so effective that I don't need as much to eat. Whatever, I mean, I think I eat a little bit more about 2 weeks before my period, but that really is hardly anything because it's just sometimes when you have biochemical fluctuations, you need to eat a bit more. But this morning, and there's this food that I'm eating that is not on the protocol, just so you guys know. I really like it, and it's going to be part of my everyday because it just tastes so good, and it keeps things going too. And I don't always have to take my juice because sometimes you don't want to take the juice if you're like way done with all of your issues and you just don't want to take the juice, but you'll do it every so often. I've been eating bran cereal. And of course, you guys know bran cereal has a lot of fiber and it really just keeps things moving, but it also has the complex carbohydrates, it has the sugars, it has all the different things. It has a whole host of data, but if your body is very malnourished and malfunctioned, it really won't do much for you, okay? But I'm letting you guys know towards the end of your healing process and you're basically 100% well, you've reversed most, if not all of your issues, then you'll start picking and choosing certain foods that you'll strategically take at different parts of the day. And so I've been testing this, eating this bran at night as a dessert. And so I have I think a few corn tortillas with some cheese on it. That's not on the protocol, just so you know, with some salsa. And I think I had a few cookies yesterday, which is not on the protocol, just so you know. And so I had that, and that was all I had. And then I had some bran cereal, and this morning everything just came out perfect. Not that I needed, not that I have an issue, not that I had to, but what we have found with the Jilly Juice protocol is that people are harboring so much shit in their body, literally and figuratively. And when you harbor so much shit, it's like excess data. It's like your system, your operating system and your computer and your device having so many cookies built up or housing so many virus programming that it's bottlenecking your device and it's glitching, or it's bottlenecking your operating system on your computer. And so eventually you have to go and upgrade and bring in new software to then clean everything out and then make sure that it is compatible with the newest applications. And of course, the newest applications have to always be upgraded and revised and updated. Good morning, Patricia, to make sure it's compatible with your operating system. And that's how Microsoft and Apple have figured out how to live symbiotically with all of our interests and all of our daily things that we're doing, is they make sure that their operating system and then their hardware, so the hardware and the software, are compatible with all the different applications that we use on a daily basis, because that's how our world works now, is that all the different programming is then compartmentalized in applications, okay? I mean, that's how everything is now set up. And that's no different than when you are born and then you go to school. Those are applications, those are programming. When you take a specific class, when you learn a specific job or an industry, that's like an application, it's programming. So your body has to be able to take that in and process it effectively. And if you're so full of crap and you have so many malfunctions within your body, then yeah, you're not going to be able to process that correctly. Okay. And so, so that's the whole point of J Juice, is to be able to upgrade your device at any given time. So I'm still obviously going to do J Juice, but I'm noticing that, I mean, and also I think I now I'm trying to think of like, and I'm just in like in the development of, I don't say development, but just experimenting with brand cereal. What would trigger me to drink my J juice was actually about 2 weeks before my period. So menstruation is like it's like a sickness, degradation. It's a biochemical change when the body is preparing to drop seeds and then have it fertilized and create a baby. So the whole point of like reproduction is to where it mitigates against extinction. Now, I've put out and theorized that at some point, will you not have your period? Well, that remains to be seen. I know amenorrhea happens on the other end when a girl is just developing, and some women trigger amenorrhea because they're not like their peers, where some of their peers are triggering their period at like 13 and 14, and some don't trigger their period till they're 19. And then we've kind of established that happened a while back when there wasn't as many viruses and mutations going on in the population, and or also the types of foods a person was eating, as well as the environment. And so someone that was living out in the rural area would eating farm food and just, taking in the clean air wouldn't trigger their period till they're like 19, versus somebody in the city around a lot of people and a lot of just minerals would then trigger their period earlier. But nowadays girls are triggering their period really early. So anyways, I've characterized, reproduction as, it's the way the body's instinct to mitigate it against extinction, and you get sick. It's like, it's like a pain, because yes, there is, the ovulation, there's the cramps, there's then the hormonal fluctuations, the irritability, the cravings, all of that. Now, and then fatigue as well. And so I experienced a tiny, nothing major, but a tiny, I think my hormones are more, I don't say that sensitive. They used to be really, really sensitive, but I was more of in a heightened awareness a couple weeks before my period, which is in a way that's good, because, before the 2 or 3 weeks or even a couple of days before my period, I have a lot more tolerance. But then when you have a lot more tolerance, it's like, I don't know, you may let things slide. But I think that nowadays I'm a bit more in tune with the intentions of people. So I don't really tolerate too much. But then maybe I have a more of a really heightened sense of awareness around people, where I'm making then very, very clear-cut decisions. And that is a good thing, because sometimes you need to make clear-cut decisions so you don't keep dealing with the same issue over and over again. So anyways, so I think of menstruation as like a sickness. And so that's when it would trigger me to drink my juice, because I also be eating a little bit more, not a lot more, but I notice a feeling of hunger around a couple days. And I'm looking at hindsight now, and it's not, it's not so pronounced like it was, because that's why I came into this, because I had such aggressive and aggressive and very extreme and aggressive premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMS. And so now my hormones have really leveled out. And so I only have a few minor things to remind that, but then I'm thinking like, no, because it's too early. And then, and then I'm thinking I'm going to get it like 5 or 6 days later, and it comes up. So it sneaks up on me. Sometimes I don't even know nowadays. Okay. But now I look hindsight on what it is I was doing and feeling, and why I was turning to the juice. So even instinctually during that time, which last month I wasn't turning to my juice during that time, I would just be eating a bunch of food, knowing that, okay, I'm gonna have my period. Though the manifestations of PMS wasn't extreme as a couple years ago, but I knew something was going on. There was a change. But this time is a totally different mindset. I was drinking my juice during that time, and I was actually taking it in, and I was really just like wanting to. So I noticed that maybe there was something going on. I don't know. Okay. So anyways, and who's to say, and here's the thing, Patricia, as far as you not having your period, it doesn't mean that you're 100% healthy. It means that there's something else going on, because we don't know 100% if not having your period is the intention. And so really, truly keep upping the J juice. Okay, seriously, reverse all of your issues, like every single one of them. Because right now I'm getting my period every 28 days. Okay. And I'm probably the longest on here, probably the most healthy when you think about it. Okay. And I'm not saying that you aren't, but I don't want you to characterize not having your period as something that is like means that you're healthy, because we don't really know the outcome, really, truly. And some people, you know, I mean, we may have characterized it too early and thinking that not having a period means you're not. I mean, maybe it's just there because of the environment, maybe in a different circumstance. We didn't have so much activity, or I was in a different location with a different background, all that stuff. That may be what would happen. But there's so many factors that would contribute to keeping the body's insurance policy, which is your reproductive, you know, system. So that way, if anything does happen that's like just kind of surprising the body, that it would have the ability to create babies if it felt it was nearing extinction or going to trigger extinction. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of put that out there as kind of a lead in to my specific topic for today, between balance and imbalance. Because in my speech, okay, I focused on a lot of information because I wanted to bring in a lot of information. And then now I want to kind of break this up a little bit and focus, because I know that I need to practice on examples of some of the terms that I've put out there. Okay. I want to break down to give you some examples so that way I can fit it in 18 minutes. Because I could totally do this speech in 18 minutes and do it extemporaneously, but I have to really be very on my mark when it comes to examples, because that's how you paint a picture. Because anybody can read something like this. How do you deliver it is the actual thing, okay? And so I need to be on my game when it comes to examples so people understand what is antibiotic method, what's a probiotic method, what is that, and really break it down. And you're welcome, Patricia. All right, so, you know, what is balance, okay? I mean, balance is when the biochemistry of an organism is living symbiotically with the external environment, where they're living indefinitely without dying or reproducing. Okay. And so the external and the internal environment is made up of oxygen, water. I got to get this memorized. Oxygen, water, electrolytes, trace minerals, fats, carbs, proteins, bacteria / viruses. Okay. And so what is imbalance? Okay, no, hold on. So that's the external internal environment. Okay, so that's just what it's made up of. So each body has a specific conglomeration of those items, of those factors. And there's a specific process how everything works with each other. Okay, so that's the biochemistry. It houses all that, but there's a specific formula. But the external environment has the same stuff, and there's a specific formula that must happen for you to take it in and then be able to align itself. So what is imbalance? Well, when you have an imbalance in the water, in the oxygen, in the electrolytes, in the trace minerals, the fats, carbs, proteins, and bacteria and viruses within your body, and then also out there. Okay, so imbalance is where the biochemistry and the external environment are not symbiotically aligning themselves to be able to then allow the organism to live unobstructed, to live without issues. Okay. And so I've mentioned the, weak bodies applying the antibiotic probiotic method. And that's what creates weak bodies. That's what creates imbalance. So balance is when you're able to not age and reproduce, okay, where you don't want to reproduce. Yeah, you can reproduce, but you don't want to reproduce, okay? So if balance is to where you're living symbiotically with the environment without aging and reproducing or triggering cancer, disease, and chronic illness, then imbalance is where you're aging and then you are constantly wanting to have children, like your body's instinctually knowing it needs to drop seeds to carry the human species forward. So so what would create that imbalance? Well, a weak body, okay, but what is a weak body? Well, there is an imbalance. there is an imbalance in all of your 11 different systems with all the different elements and fats and minerals. Okay? And so when someone goes through symptoms, because what happens is when the body sees that there's an imbalance, there are symptoms that then manifest. And then how a person applies the elements and bacteria, minerals, it will then contribute to either a strong body or a weak body. So I mentioned that weak bodies apply the antibiotic probiotic method. Well, what is an antibiotic probiotic method? Well, it's a belief system that every system works independently from each other. And so when you're applying a condensed form of minerals and elements, so minerals could be mercury, it could be cobalt, it could be arsenic, and elements could be air and water also. Okay, so when you're applying a condensed form of minerals and elements, then your intention is to stop the pain or fill in the gaps. So then what is an example? Again, well, pills, powders, supplements, detoxes, shakes, and oils, because your intention is to take a condensed form of minerals, whatever it is, and then you're applying it directly with the intention to the specific area. And then you experience a manifestation of no more pain or pleasure, because you could be taking drugs. And so that is your intention. And when you already have imbalances in your body, mineral imbalances, then that just sustains and perpetuates the problem of more imbalances. And so what happens is that even though, so that's the side effects, is that then when you're applying these methods, such as, let's say, for example, for a cold, you're applying elderberry syrup. Elderberry syrup has an inordinate amount of fruit sugar. And if you already have a sugar imbalance in your body because you have an excess amount of fungus, which feeds off of sugar, it only is going to feed the fungus, the candida, which isn't bad, but when you have too much of it, it becomes a problem. Then also elderberry syrup has spices, or it has negative elements like turmeric, like it has antibiotic qualities. I don't say turmeric, but cinnamon. It has like different spices to work as an antibiotic, as a condensed form of minerals that are called specific names that you'd see in your spice cabinet. And so when you have a bunch of sugar that already you have an imbalance in your body of sugar issues, and then you're taking a bunch of negative elements such as like spices or minerals, now you're causing more of an imbalance in your body with the intention to stop any symptoms, stop congestion, stop mucus, when you need to have mucus to release any excess. So when your intention is to stop the symptoms and you're taking a condensed form of minerals and elements, that then sustains and creates and perpetuates weak bodies to make them weaker and weaker as you would keep applying those methods. So then what's the probiotic method? Because you hear so many stories about how probiotics are so wonderful. They are, but just probiotics in of itself isn't really wonderful because it's just a bacteria. Now, bacteria is neither good nor bad. It's how you use them and why you use the bacteria. Because what is the probiotic method? What examples? It's bacteria, viruses, and flesh condensed form with the intention to stop pain or fill in the assumed gaps. So when someone gets an immunotherapy, or they have a procedure done, or surgery, or they take a vaccine, which is inherently bad, but vaccines are really only for weak bodies. Strong bodies won't need a vaccine, but the government doesn't know, so you have to do what the government says if they don't know what your situation is. When you're doing like therapies, procedures, pills, powder, supplements, all of that, when you're taking a probiotic method, you're taking a bacteria, virus, a condensed form of a bacteria, of a virus, of even flesh, okay? Because it could be something used to as a substitute for I don't know, like a bladder sling, and they're using pig intestine, okay? So when you're taking forms of living things and applying it with a specific intention to stop the pain or fill in the gaps, that also does contribute and perpetuate weaknesses in your body. Okay, because then it causes imbalances and it makes you weaker. When you're taking in animal types of flesh to then, do what the body is supposed to be doing, but the body isn't strong enough to do what it is supposed to be doing, yeah, you're just maintaining your homeostasis of weaknesses. And then you're applying other types of antibiotic qualities, probiotic qualities, to then further weaken the body. So that's the antibiotic probiotic method. So it's taking a condensed form of minerals and elements and bacteria and viruses and flesh, and then having intention to stop the pain or fill in the gaps. And that comes out in immunotherapy, comes out in chemotherapy, comes out in cannabis. It comes out in even, even massage therapy. I mean, I'm not trying to, harangue the massage therapist because you guys are trying to do good for your clients. But, when you're applying pressure in here and releasing this here, I mean, it just like, where does it go? But that's the antibiotic probiotic method, is when you're taking even a person's hormones. Okay, so it's still, bacteria, viruses, and flesh, minerals and elements. Your hormones are made up of minerals, elements, bacteria, viruses, flesh. Your whole body is made up of cells. So it has bacteria, it has oxygen, it has water, it has electrolytes, it has trace minerals, it has fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and bacteria and viruses. That's what your body is made up of. So when you're going to different people to have therapies, you're getting those specific things manipulated, or you're taking a condensed form of these specific things, like oxygen therapy. It was so interesting. I was reading yesterday, so I go to some of my groups, like the whole thing about Tartaria, and they talk about like the giants from the past. And then we're hearing about, that there were the Nephilim, the giants of the past, and where they came, I don't know. There's always controversy of where they actually came from. But our environment, Earth's environment, was very different hundreds and thousands and millions of years ago. So there was probably maybe a lot more oxygen in the atmosphere, because I guess there was giant trees. If you've seen Avatar, that could be a glimpse of what it could be. And then, of course, like the Devil's Mound, or that place, I think is in Utah or Arizona, where it looks like a chopped down tree trunk. I don't know, it's like a petrified tree trunk. Well, that could have been the giant trees of the past. But then, everything is left up to speculation, of course. And so, but there, dinosaurs did exist. Kevin made a point, a good example. If we can't really substantiate that there were giants of the past, and that the giants that we see today aren't just having some kind of hormonal imbalance, but the dinosaurs did exist way back when. That's indisputable. Okay. And that's an excellent example of then substantiating that there were giants of the past, which means that the atmosphere was very different back then to sustain those reptiles, which means there's a lot more foliage, a lot more trees, a lot more oxygen. And so at some point, maybe the flood, maybe some other type of environmental fluctuation that happens, because Earth goes through its ups and downs, its fluctuations. Now there's probably less oxygen in the atmosphere, but we still have humans that have been around for a long time that may have residual genetics from those times. And maybe their human growth hormone is still able to keep producing and making the person grow, but the environment can't reconcile. And so they have a short lifespan. So I was on this group site, and they were talking about these giants from the past. And then they have examples of giants that existed back in the 1940s that died. And I'm like, I wonder how healthy they were. What was their lifespan? This is just my mind thinking. And then one of the admins is like, or somebody was saying, well, he had a shortened life. He died, he was only living for this amount of time, and you can go Google him. So I looked up Robert, I think it's Ludlow, and it's on my Facebook. And they talked about how he had an overabundance of the human growth hormone and some kind of dysplasia, some other issues. And so he only lived for a very short amount of time. And I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And then I'm thinking like, okay, thank you, Kevin. Meteor changed the atmosphere. Okay. And then I'm thinking like, okay, well, how did the atmosphere, does oxygen affect the human growth hormone. So I'm Googling that and I'm like finding all this stuff on PubMed, because really it's the kind of questions you ask. You're not going to have all these answers like right there at your feet, you know, just giving you every, no, you have to ask the questions to Google, and that's what gives you the answer substantially. So you already have a theory in mind, and then you just go and try to substantiate it. Okay. And so I Googled, you know, does oxygen affect the human growth hormone? And then this article says that, yeah, I mean, they're trying to grow a lot of this coli type of bacteria, but there isn't enough oxygen to really make it grow fast and all this stuff. So I'm thinking like, so this guy could have like a hormonal imbalance or have residual DNA from the past that allowed him to keep growing, because there's a lot of people with these anomalies, and this is before major vaccines and major medicine was being put out there. Okay, so this happened. These things are going on from like way back when, you guys, okay? So don't be using that it's biotech messing with their hormones, cause them to grow faster than other people, okay? They could be residual DNA from generations ago. Spider. I'm not gonna kill it. And so, just go. Anyways, I gotta love it. So anyways, and so I'm thinking like, why they live a shortened lifespan, why tall people who may have a residual of that human growth hormone, and why tall people may have a shorter lifespan and more issues is because the body, the DNA, the biochemistry couldn't really reconcile. And so when someone's like 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet tall, which means they do have more of a hormone, and maybe that hormone that allowed them to be a giant would have worked way back when, okay? But in this atmosphere, it's not working, it's not jiving, they're not adapting because they haven't evolved. And so I guess, you know, humans and animals have become, I did, Kevin. So humans and animals have become smaller now to be able to reconcile with the atmosphere. And then we're more compact, and then we're able to work symbiotically. So it's interesting how, so you think, why wouldn't even people that are like, because I know people that are really, really, really tall that have issues, and not to say they, you know, that a person that's really, really tall couldn't have a balance. And I would love to take someone that's like, you know, 7 foot, 8 foot tall, give them the Jilly Juice to see if they can still sustain their height and get everything well balanced, or would they become shorter? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing that we're finding out. And so, because I'm thinking that taking Jilly Juice is gonna make me taller, but maybe I'm supposed, maybe being, I'll say I'm not diminutive, but I would say the average height. And of course, maybe, you know, the Genghis Khan, you know, and all those that were really, really good at fighting and all that, they weren't like super tall, like maybe the Norway people, I forget their name, the Nordics, the Vikings, okay, because they were like tall and white. So I'm thinking of like, and then there's also PubMed that shows that people who are really tall, as well as a certain weight, would have a shorter lifespan than those of the average height of like 60 or 175 centimeters or something like that. So there is something to height and then longevity. But now the J Juice has changed the game a little bit to where could a person who's really tall be able to then reconcile and get everything all well balanced in their system and to prolong their life? And would it change their whole structure as far as their height? Obviously it'll change their weight, because weight is just hormones redistributed in an imbalanced form. So that was kind of interesting. And so maybe, you know, being tall really isn't healthy in our society. So all these models that are like model thin and so tall, you know, they have a lifespan. Could these models out there, maybe, and there's some of you that are models out there that are very tall, you just need to keep doing the J Juice and let us know, will it shorten your height, or will it make us tall? You know, I don't think it'll make us taller, because we still have to deal with the atmosphere. The atmosphere is the way the atmosphere is until something comes in, like you said, Kevin, a meteorite back in the dinosaur days changed the atmosphere, which of course it's going to impact all of biodiversity. And so that's why I went into the the autumn or the different 4 seasons, because it's an example, an illustration of how the atmosphere and the environment affect biodiversity, and then how humans are able to adapt to every changing environment. So when you're doing the J juice, you'll be able to adapt to any changes that happen, whether, as long as it's relatively stable, not super unstable. I mean, like, obviously, if you go into a riot, like an activist protesting, your hormones are going to be right there at the surface. Your adrenaline, your fight or flight, to save you from any kind of crazy things. Oh, Kevin, that's right. You are 6'3". Jesus, that's right. You are a tall dude. Okay. All right, you'll let me know on that one. This is really awesome. Okay, so yeah, so I'm trying to illustrate what the change of homeostasis, what that is, and the 4 seasons is an example of changes in homeostasis, and then triggers instincts in biodiversity. Okay, and that's why I have that as then a showing that when you have constant changes in your environment outside, it's going to impact you, of course, as far as your adaptability and mutations to help you evolve, but also too, it when you have extreme changes within your body that would cause then the body to then trigger a death trajectory type of thing, then this would then contribute to the aging as well as reproduction. So then what I'm trying to then illustrate is, if it was summer all year round within your body, now I know I'm jumping a little bit, but if it was summer all year round in your body, which means that there's no upset of homeostasis, there's no environmental impacts, no major weather patterns, no drop or rise in temperature, no meteorites or anything else happening, it's just a straight 80 degrees, light winds from the east blowing, and it's warm, you wouldn't need to there wouldn't be any reason to decay, because everything is stable, and as long as your internal universe is stable too, just like your external universe, you wouldn't be aging, and there'd be no reason to reproduce, because there wouldn't be any kind of impact from the outside then causing reproduction or causing to regrow because of an event that killed something or triggered a sense that death is looming, so they need to keep reproducing and dropping seeds. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate, is that if we had relative stability within our body, we wouldn't be aging and we wouldn't need to be reproducing. And that's really what it comes down to. And so there's so many examples of where homeostasis gets upset, to where then you have to adapt. So there's like a maximum adaptation, and there's a minimum or micro, maximum, minimum, macro adaptation, micro adaptation. The macro adaptation is when you're dealing with your environment, and let's say you walk into an argument, and then you have to figure out how to adapt to that situation. You walk into an office where people are being stupid, you have to adapt to that situation. You walk into a new company where the culture is very different than your old company. You have to figure out how to adapt to that situation, know who the key people are, play the game. Playing the game is adapting. People don't know how to play the game, they don't know how to adapt. Okay, so that's what like balance and imbalance is the ability to adapt and live symbiotically within the culture, within the environment, where you're not aging or reproducing, so there's no death and there's no decay to then trigger then dropping seeds, and then you're very well balanced, speaking with clarity, you're not coming from emotion, getting triggered like that easily. And if you are getting triggered that easily, then you have to make choices out there. And some people, do not need to be around other people because they're always getting triggered. And so, because there's some people out there that will just do it purposely, okay? And you don't need to have that kind of shit in your life. So, yeah, you create boundaries, all right? So balance and imbalance. So that's what the whole thing with the antibiotic probiotic method is. You're taking minerals and elements and bacteria and viruses and flesh with a specific intention to stop the pain, stop the healing programming, so then you can continue on with your day. But what that does is it actually undermines your ability of longevity, of prolonging your life. And then every year you progressively get worse, you decay. And that's what goes on in our current matrix, alternative matrix. And so now, we don't really have to do that, but you have to then pay the piper, and you have to go through the healing process. The access to potential indefinite life is that you actually have to go through pain, even a little bit. And you also have to feed your body the right elements. Right now, people are electrolyte deficient. They're malnourished. They're not getting the micro and macro nutrition because they have weaknesses in their 11 different systems. Their systems are not reconciling the food that you're taking. So you're taking, just say you are changing your diet. Well, say you're eating more cruciferous vegetables, or you're eating your salads and all of that. Well, you're not maximizing that nutritional absorption because you have 11 different systems that have already been damaged from your prior lifestyle and belief system. So it won't be able to process that effectively to then really feed your body correctly. So this is why the J juice is so, so important, because it's like mother's milk to babies who can't process their food correctly. Mother's milk is broken down nutrition where it's easily absorbable for the baby to then be able to grow and develop, to then be able to take the food supply, solid foods, and break it down and then process it and then go through the proper channels. But with Jillian's juice, Jilly juice, you're taking the cabbage and kale that's broken down through the lactofermentation process, creating bacteria that breaks down the cabbage and kale, utilizing pink Himalayan salt. So you have the sodium chloride dissolved in water, which is the energizing force. You have the 84, 86 trace minerals that your body needs. And then it's taken in a liquid form, because you try to eat kale and cabbage. It's very, very fibrous, and it's very difficult to break down if you have a weak system. So you have to have something else, another bacteria to break it down for you. It's like, let's say the lactofermentation process is like the mother bird regurgitating the food so the baby can eat it. That's another example of Jilly juice, is that a mother bird, to be able to feed her baby, she eats the worms and eats whatever, and then throws up in the mouth of the baby. So she actually chewed up that food, processed it, and then threw it up in the baby, regurgitated. That's how the baby's able to process solid foods, because they don't have jars. They don't have, salt and cabbage, and they're not looking at the time and temperature and ratios. So they have that. So Mother Nature has its own way of being able to make sure that underdeveloped babies are able to process their environment correctly. And it's the help of the mother. So in a lot of ways, Jilly juice is like mother's milk. It's like bacteria, your environment regurgitating the elements so you can process it and then be able to freaking process the food correctly. That's a great freaking analogy. I just thought of that today. Right now, as we speak. You got it here. You saw it here live. Wow. Yeah. So look up regurgitation. Look up how mother birds eat foods and throw up in their baby's mouth. I mean, it sounds gross, but that's essentially what Jilly juice is. Because the lactofermentation is it's a processing and the breaking down of the solid food. And you're filling in the gaps, the real gaps. You're electrolyte deficient, malnourished, and you don't have an energizing force to be able to energize the minerals and reconcile the minerals, the elements, the bacteria, the viruses, and the flesh to be able to then repair the damage so you can actually derive nutritional benefit from every food. So I eat chips. I think my husband watches me eat chips all the time, which I do. I eat like maybe 10 or 15 barbecue chips, but that has minerals, that has fats, that has carbohydrates. It may have bacteria on it. I don't know. I mean, when you think about it, every food that I eat has, every food I eat has oxygen, water, electrolytes, trace minerals, fats, carbs, proteins, and bacteria and viruses. That's all the food I eat. And guess what? My body's made up of that. Guess what? My environment is made up of that. And then the FDA and the CDC or the FDA and the USDA make sure that the food supply is able to be processed by the general population. So now that my body's so effective in processing and absorbing, I can eat whatever the hell I want in moderation. I call dips in the baby bird example in one of my old posts in the old that's fine. But I didn't remember that from you. I just thought of that in myself. Okay. So it's not like it's like a new concept. It's out there. So it's not like, you know, you're such a dork. But that's great. But why haven't you used it as an example of J juice? See? So even though you may have said it a long time ago, it has been said in a while, and I don't remember you even saying that, but that's okay. The old group a long time ago was like in 2017. A lot's happened between then. Dork. But yes. So I mean, you knew, but it needs to be an example that needs, and of course it's going to bring it back up. And we need to have that as an example. So not just mother's milk, but also regurgitating food for baby birds. And that was, you know, so if that was an example that you knew about, why didn't you tell me to use that, Kevin? Okay. So now I'm going to be using that because that's an excellent example, because that does make sense. I mean, mother's milk makes sense, regurgitation, it's all the same stuff. It really is. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, but that's what the food supply is. I know, but you haven't said it since then. You have never at all returned that one time out of how many years we've been doing this? 3 years? You know how many times I go over this information because people forget. That's why I do this redundantly. Redundant. Now, I haven't read your current stuff, but it should be in there, Mr. Kevin. It should be in there as an example. Mother's milk or regurgitating babies, you know, regurgitating food for babies. Maybe I remember, I don't know, maybe it was in the back of my mind that maybe I did see it, and maybe it was stuck back here because of what you said, and it brought it to surface. So I don't know. So I'll give you some credit, okay? I'll give you some credit. I don't remember removing it. That in your book. I don't think I removed it. I don't remember that. I really don't. Maybe I did. Okay, maybe I did. But see, here's the thing. You know, it had, who knows? I don't remember. But that's fine. It's neither here nor there. The fact that we can use it, we use it, and because it makes sense. It really does. And if you did, I apologize. I don't remember it, but that's okay. The fact is, the fact of the matter is that now we have to be able to deliver this in and have examples. Okay? And have examples. So maybe you did, and back then I was dealing with so much stuff. Okay. And so, you know, there's always a time and place where you may give information to somebody and they're not ready for it. And then they have to think about it. So that's what it takes. It takes a minute for us to get to whatever level that we need to get to be able to then bring it all together. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So I may have said things to you that you just like discounted and then finally brought back. Potentially that's the same thing. But really, truly, I had not remembered that at all. But maybe I'm just trying to remember. I mean, there's just so much stuff in the background. There's so much stuff going on. So that's fine. Doesn't matter whose credit. It doesn't matter. But I'm glad that you stand up for yourself, because maybe you did and I just don't remember, and you need to stand up for yourself because hell. But it's but that's fine. That's good. But good. You correct me where I may have, you know, because who cares? I'm just glad we have it as right there at the surface. So it could have been way deep down, and finally, you know, it was something already there. And it's hard to say how the human body works. But here's the thing. You know, this is the thing. Processing your environment effectively is really what it comes down to. Being able to process your food where you actually derive benefit. So it's not even just dealing with the pain and not taking medication. It's actually giving your body, because what happens is when you deal with pain and your body's trying to heal. Okay, guys. So those of you that are not doing JJs, but you're realizing that pain is healing. It's all good, Kevin. You're realizing that pain is healing, and but yet you don't want to do J juice yet. what happens is when you deal with pain and the body is trying to heal, you're not absorbing the nutritional food supply as you should, so you don't have as many reserves. So when you are dealing with pain and you have a continuous pain, the body is going to take from your reserves, and then that's why you have the pain, and then try to apply it. And then what's going to happen is like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So when you have a continuous chronic pain, whether it's in your mouth or in any part of your body, but then you're not really like, you're not maximizing your 11 different systems, you're going to then see your body still degrade because you're not regenerating cells to be able to handle the body healing. Because the J juice is like the reserves. Okay, the J juice is like creating, where it's strengthening your weaknesses and then creating reserves. So when you do walk into an environment where there is an upset of homeostasis, you have enough minerals, enough fats, enough bacteria, viruses, flesh, elements to then deal with that weakness, because you walked into an environment that upset your homeostasis, and then and it won't affect your other systems. You're not going to now see like your eye go crazy or something because you had to go deal with the pain down here. And that's what goes on with people who are not doing J juice but aren't taking medications either, is they're robbing Peter and paying Paul. Just like when you pay bills and you don't have enough money, you say, okay, I'm gonna, or you have, different accounts, and so you're gonna rob Peter to go pay Paul this, and rob this and go pay that. That's what happens when you don't have adequate access to nutrition. Okay, when you don't have adequate access to nutrition, that's what you're doing. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so the J juice is then giving you the extra reserve so you can strengthen your weaknesses and have those reserves on hand. So when you do walk into an environment, it changes it. You'll be able to manage that without having a deficiency somewhere else in your body. That's really cool. That's really interesting. But yeah, man, I bet I was difficult back then, Kevin. I bet I was very difficult back then. Man. That's okay. That's okay. Hey, and here's the thing. We all have times in our life where we're going to be ready for certain things. And I can't wait till everybody is ready to take on this information and do the juice. I can't wait. And it happens in stages. It really does. It happens in stages. And so I want, we just got to keep laying the groundwork. And eventually it'll be an aha. So all the information that either you've given me a long time ago and I've given you, as well as I've given everybody else and you've given everybody else, it's going to resonate, and eventually there'll be an aha, and it's all going to come together. And then they're going to do the juice, or they're going to utilize your example, or they're going to change their life. And it's amazing to watch. It's like watching a child grow. Okay. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a phenomenon that it's hard to put your finger on it, as a whole. It's just watching it as it develops. It's a pretty interesting process. Because I'm telling you, you guys have all this info. If you're watching me and following me for a while, you have so much info, like so much, but it's so jumbled up. And then you're trying to deal with your hormones, trying to deal with all your different weaknesses, but you have this info. Sometimes my husband surprised me. He has info in the back of his head that I don't even know he has. And then he'll just like pop off with something that's like, oh my God, wow, that was surprising. I didn't expect that from you, and type of thing. And so my husband surprised me. So he has info that I'm not even aware that he has, but it just comes out when it's appropriate. Kevin has info that I'm not even aware that he has. I don't even know some of the info that he has, because I haven't read his the latest, his latest stuff, and I don't want to. I want to wait till it's all done. Then I'll read it. And then, because he's going to be changing things based upon the flow of where we're going. So I don't want to read anything until we've actually gleaned everything out. So yeah, so all of you guys have so much info, and then it's just putting it all together in your world, and in how you then would then either develop your routine and your understanding. And some of you have gotten off the protocol and now came back on the protocol and want me to like catch you up. And hey, that's what YouTube is. That's what my book is. That's where the group is, because I can't possibly. Oh, okay, Kevin. Thanks for bringing up the little bird example. I thought you didn't like it. So now, okay, good. Okay, so I probably didn't back then, and who knows. So if you remember it correctly, then you know what, that's fine. Utilize whatever. Utilize whatever, here's the thing, Kevin. Whatever I've said in the past, if we are on the same page already now, because we're now on the same page, I know we are. Utilize whatever I said in the past. Just remember, I've been in different places. You realize that obviously I've been growing and changing and all that stuff. So your PTSD around my reactions, let go of that. Okay? If it makes sense as an example or as something to use to then justify what we're saying, utilize it. Because I'll tell you, I've been through so much different bullshit. I'll tell you what, it's crazy. I will remember hardly anything nowadays because I'm keep moving forward. So, but yeah, I mean, you guys, you will eventually bring everything all together. It'll eventually, now you'll be able to just spew it out and then do the protocol, exemplify it, all that stuff. And so, yeah, my husband surprises me. I surprise myself. Kevin surprises me how much he gets it, but it really shouldn't surprise me really much anymore. And when you break everything down, everything is made up of oxygen, water, electrolytes, trace minerals, fats, carbs, proteins, bacteria, and viruses. I mean, we are the universe, you guys. We have an external universe. We have an internal universe. We are the universe. I mean, this is like what's so profound is that we are the universe. And so, yeah, it's the growth process. I'm telling you, I mean, the layers that I've been peeling back the last like 3 years has been phenomenally exciting. It really has been phenomenally exciting. So, but no, just want to remind you, Kevin. Hey, Massimo, I don't want to hold you back. Do whatever you got to do. Use your creativity, because now you get where we're all going. Now you know where I'm coming from, and I know where you're coming from. We're on the same page, Kevin. You have full creative license to do what you have to do without violating any of the Lulu publishing laws, okay? We're not going to be quoting anybody in the book that is still alive. And so, it's like I'm giving Kevin creative license. I've given him my notes. I think the only thing that maybe what he could do word for word, or he can change up the words a little bit, is this. This really probably is the only thing really that could be something that would be like my contribution to the book. And then all the other stuff would be then all the stuff that we've researched together, as well as what his personal research has done, would then be whatever in his words. But I'm going to give him the creative license because he has that strength. And I want to give him that latitude, because that's only going to help him anyways. I mean, obviously, we all have a dream to do what we love to do and make money at it, but not to where it's so like, not to where it's imbalanced. Okay. Because we're going to be on this earth for a while, guys. Okay. So you might as well just know how to adapt to your environment and figure out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then strengthen your weaknesses. And if you don't feel like strengthening your weaknesses, and pay somebody, because I could go and be like, okay, I'm going to spend, in my hole and learn how to write and use Grammarly and all this stuff. And I'm like, I could have learned how to do the command prompts for my Windows 10. I could have done that, but you know what? Why not work within a community? Because that's what this world's about, is how do you work with your community? Utilizing the strengths, different strengths in different people. And then if you really truly wanted to hone in on your skills on something, then yeah, you take that time. But we only have, not say we only have so much time, but I want to bring in a community that I can trust. I trust Kevin, I trust Bridget, I trust Lillian, trust my husband. Okay. I want to have a tight circle that I know I can go to. And then if I need if I want to do something on the side of myself, then yeah, I could hone in on my own writing skills. But do I really need to? Really, what I want to really be very good at is the public speaking. Okay, is to take in information and then be able to regurgitate it in a way that I can process and give examples, because I have plenty of life experience to give examples, and I understand who my audience is because it's a cross section of everybody on freaking Facebook, and be able to deliver it and have it land and people get it and then they change. I mean, that's really what my dream is to be able to deliver something like J Juice to the world. Okay. And then, you know, Kevin has his dream and he's doing it, he's writing it, and then he'll be able to expand his platform. I mean, Bridget has her dreams and she's doing stuff to expand her platform. Lillian too is dealing with all of her stuff and expanding her platform. And, you know, and she has her strengths. And so, you know, that's what I want from, you know, for everybody, is to be able to realize whatever their dreams are. And you don't have to be rich. You don't have to make so much money and then sit on it, you know, because you're going to be around for a while. So if you can live, because when you make so much money, okay, it means that you have to be working 24/7 and be having all these hormones come out, and then the rest isn't there. When you're chasing after the almighty dollar on such an exponential level, then you have an imbalance. So yes, chasing the dollar is good, but it's balancing out your responsibilities, your relationships, all the things that you want, and still be able to pay your bills, still do what you want to do, and still have the freedom. And you know, and I am now gaining more balance. I'm not balanced yet when you think about my whole life. No, I'm not balanced yet. Okay, I'm not there yet. And I know what there is for me. Okay. So you guys will figure out what there is for you. And Kevin is working on what there is for him. And then Bridget too. Everybody is working on what there is. Okay. And I don't want to get caught up in what the ultimate there is, because there is no ultimate, because the ultimate there, like making it, is where then you can leave a legacy for your kids or for people, because you're expecting to die pretty soon. Because when you're chasing that carrot, it means that you're expending hormones that you're not regenerating, you're not giving the rest. And so when you're chasing the carrot to gather all the carrots and be the one to say, I have the most carrots, then all of a sudden you just run out of steam. And then now you got to stop chasing the carrot so you can regenerate. And there goes all of your money. So you have to pace yourself, guys. Don't chase that carrot so hard. Pace yourself. Okay? Yes, Massimo, money is big energy. But the currency, you can have a perpetual balance with currency of your hormones and then your return on your hormones, to where you're not expending way more than you're getting back. And that's really the big key thing is are you expending more than you're getting back? And are you getting back than what you're expending? And then that's the imbalances. So it's that being able to exchange on a relatively equal level. And if you get a little bit more than what you're giving out, then you save that for a rainy day or for a specific purpose, to develop yourself or to develop your community, because yourself is part of the community. So if you are developing yourself in a better way to then ultimately help the community, that's not a bad thing either. Because even saving up for a vacation gives you respite, gives you rest, so you can regenerate and then be even that much more effective. Because people need vacations. People don't take enough vacations, really. Or people are constantly on vacation, okay? So money isn't bad. It's just a representation of your energy. Money is big energy. You're absolutely right. And it's you know, just like, my God, it was a big agriculture. You know, was it the agriculture business is big agri, but they do it on a huge basis because they're dealing with 7 billion people on this planet. Okay, so all they're doing, all biotech is doing, all big agri and all those big oil companies, all they're doing is negotiating the resources to deal with massive amounts of people. Oh, wow. Kevin, he's so funny. I love it. Well, I forgot. So our student account for 2 years back. Here's a baby bird post. Okay, cause, okay, I had to reveal it with a. Okay. And that's probably why I killed it off, because of, I don't know, holistic, 100% miracle drink exposing. Okay. Okay, that's great. You know, and we did come from a very different place way back when, I'll tell you what. So the context of the situation may have lent itself to where I'm like, I don't want to deal with anything, you know. So I can only imagine what my mentality was, as well as your mentality, way back when we did the Steam It, because that's when all the trolls, that's when we had those trolls that were just like trolling the crap out of us on Steam It. And we're trying to go to different venues and they kept following us. And so it's like, if you can't manage Facebook, then there's no point in going to MeWe or Steam It or any other place if you can't even, you know, manage your current environment. Because everywhere you go, you bring yourself, and the same people will follow you. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. You know, moving to different places, which I did when I was younger, is like, you know, kept trying to run away from myself and my problems. So I keep moving all the time, but I'm like, damn it, why is the same issues keep coming up? Because I'm taking myself with me. I am the common denominator. Okay, got it. So I might as well just go and figure it out in California, which I did for the most part. And then I said, hey, get out of California. And then I found a better place here in Ohio, which allowed me to then, you know, reconstruct my pathway. So sometimes you have to, but you have to be able to know that I don't know. Could I go back to California and make it? Oh, I'm sure I could, but do I want to? Not really. I like the Four Seasons here. I really do. So, so yeah, so those that can't reconcile Facebook, you won't be able to go. You're not going to have any changes anywhere else. It's all going to be the same BS. So, you know, so that's why I'm glad that we stayed on Facebook. I mean, I had my own issues with Facebook, but yeah, Steam It. Oh my God, Steam It. That was interesting. That was fun. All of those things that we did in the beginning was just all the experimentation with going to different, I mean, even going to my own website. That was like, you know, way back when. So let me read that real quick. Let me see. I'm going to take it. Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, Steven. Yeah, you can't block. I'm going to do a copy and paste. Yeah, I remember trying to even get a password with Steam It. It's like, geez. Let me see. I'll try to read this on. Trying to figure out what was said in here that caused me to just say, no, I don't want to see it, or I don't want to deal with it. So I'm trying to remember my mentality. I've been through so many freaking mentalities. Okay. Leaky gut epidemic caused by candida. So this is what Kevin wrote. Leaky gut epidemic caused by candida. How to reverse it with a miracle drink exposing the holistic. Man. Okay. I'm going to find that little. Jeez. All right, I'm going to do a Control F and find Baby Bird. Control F. Baby Bird. Oh, here we go. Okay, the same counts for raw veggies. That's why the fermentation of the cabbage in Jillian, her drink, makes the nutrients bioavailable, since the probiotic is in its pre-digested and then poop it out. We're like little birds with our compromised gut. So I don't think I ever said no to this. I don't know. Maybe you did. I don't know. We're like little birds with our compromised gut these days. They also can't digest food very well. That's why mommy bird eats it and then the baby digests it into her mouth, then pukes it out into her fluffy baby birds. Ah, see, okay. And you know what? And who knows, you may have did it and I didn't. So that's great. Yeah, I found it. No, I found it. No, it's great. This is. I'll do the copy and paste. So no, Kevin, you're awesome. So I knew you remembered it correctly. I just don't remember my reaction to it. So I don't remember even. But the fact that you wrote it, that's great. That's great. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty. I'm telling you, so much has happened. When you think about it, Kevin, how much we've been through, it's insane how much we've been through. You know, and meeting you over in Portugal was pretty insane too. Okay, with all of that stuff that goes on, that went on in the background there. So we've been through a lot through this whole protocol. And I can only imagine, I mean, really, when you, if I were to actually go back to all the videos, I would say even on Facebook, because Facebook has every single video I've ever done ever since I started this protocol. And it's a lot. I'll tell you what, you go back to the beginning of my videos, you'll be like, okay, you watch like the first 2 or 3. Then now you're watching the ones that are now, you'll be like, what the hell? Holy crap. So yeah, I can only imagine from when my first video was created to now this video, all that's happened in between. Yeah. And I don't remember everything either, but I mean, I'll tell you what, it's like a blur. It really is. It's like a blur. And it's only been 3 years. And think about it, 3 years. But then I've been married to my husband since like 2011. Okay, so a lot's happened between my husband and I too, you know, and it's crazy. So, you know, you're probably my next longest relationship. You know, because, you know, you're the life of the protocol. As far as the, you know, well, you know, not my next longest, but, you know, it's, I mean, as far as the protocol goes, you know, you've been around, well, Lillian's been around the longest. And then, yeah, and then Kevin, and then Bridget came on board. So, you know, yeah, that's why people don't need to send me any links or any videos or anything else, because I have my researcher on certain things. I do my own research. People don't know what I know. Hey, good morning, Linda Cobbs. Not everybody knows what I know, especially the new people don't know what I know. So they just might as well just sit back and listen and watch my stuff. Yes, a lot of videos where I'm just talking and like even on Dr. Phil, they were just saying, you know, like, oh my God, it was just so like, ugh. And I'm like, I totally, you know, I believe me, I feel for anyone that was in the beginning watching my videos. But the videos, what I was doing back then was practicing, trying to get this out, because you can only write so much. I mean, how much can you write? And how much do I really want to be typing all the time? So that's why I do a lot of, that's why I sound kind of stupid sometimes when I write, because I do talk to text because it's faster. I'm always about fast, 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 fast. And so my parents, even my speech, try to slow me down because, you know, when I guess when I first started walking, I didn't walk, I ran. When I first started actually developing, when I came to America, because I was very malnourished. And so they did pump me up with protein and all this other stuff. So I didn't walk, I ran. So I've always been just bam, 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 bam. And so fast, fast, fast. That, and so, you know, so that's why, you know, I do talk to text, and that's why I turn to then the live videos, because it's a faster mode of communication. Talking is faster than writing. That's why I'm not a great writer, because I get so frustrated, and it slows me down. And then I have another thought process that it gets lost because I'm trying to write this stupid sentence. So that's why Kevin is there, because that way I can keep thinking as he's writing and formulating, because that's the way his brain works, which is so amazing. I can keep, you know, developing and keep expanding as he's then working on, you know, yesterday's stuff, and then keeping up with today's stuff too. So that's why he's so amazing, is because Kevin's able to keep up with today's stuff and still write yesterday's stuff. And I'm done with yesterday. I'm on to like the next thing. So yeah, Linda, that's true. Intelligent people tend to speak, yeah, and I speak too rapid. And I actually, a long time ago, I used to speak so rapid where it would garble my words because I would be so self-conscious. And then who knows? And so eventually, somehow I've been able to harness and slow myself down and then get the words out. But I'll tell you, my mother can tell you how he used to speak so fast. I'm like, okay, Jillian, so freaking down. I'm like, okay, you know. So it's also getting my hormones under control as well. Okay. But so yeah, that's just between balance and imbalance. What a concept. What a concept. All of this. So yeah, Kevin, thanks for that reminder. Steam it. Jeez. That was a million years ago. A million years ago. All right, guys. So to wrap it up, what balance and imbalance is that your body is made up of oxygen, water, electrolytes, trace minerals, fats, carbs, proteins, and bacteria and viruses. And then when you have a balance, you're able to balance out the formula of that in your body, and then also be able to adapt and negotiate the environment relative to your biochemistry, because that's what it is, it's biochemistry. And then when you're applying the antibiotic probiotic method, 2 million years ago, when you're applying the antibiotic probiotic method, you're taking condensed forms of minerals and elements with an intention to stop the pain. And that example would be pills, powder, supplements, detoxes, shakes, and oils. And then also bacteria and viruses in flesh. And then, of course, how it manifests, because you're taking a condensed form of all the bacteria, viruses, and flesh, and minerals and elements. And it manifests in procedures, vaccines, which are fine because we need them for weak bodies. Vaccines are really made for weak bodies, just so you guys know. And since the government can't tell who has a strong body, who has a weak body, and they see already death and chaos and everything, everybody is a weak body to them. So everybody gets a vaccine that is needed if there is an appropriate time for them. So the antibiotic probiotic method manifests in vaccines and immunotherapies and procedures and pills, powders, and supplements. Okay. And that's what then sustains weaknesses, creates weaknesses, as well as puts you on an indefinite death trajectory. Okay. And so what J-Juice is attempting to do is to have you be able to be well balanced internally, to be able to then live symbiotically with your environment and adapt to all the different changes. And then examples of adapting an episode of homeostasis is if you play soccer and you get hit by the ball. Well, you're not going to be taken down by getting hit by the ball. You'll be able to get back up, have a little bruise, and then it, or not even a bruise, the body will be able to regenerate. And your ability to process food and your ability to absorb food and minerals and all of that will then give you the reserves to be able to then adapt to your environment. So if you have to have extra melanin because you went out in the sun, your body's able to do that. People who have weak bodies who are also lack of melanin won't be able to withstand the sun because they have a weakness that won't be able to give them the melanin to be able to reconcile with the sun, with the change in the environment, negotiate. I'm using these new words because I love these new words. Okay. And so, yeah, strong bodies are able to adapt very, very quickly to any situation as long as it's relatively stable. But strong bodies would not go be an activist and go out there on the corner and wave a sign. A strong body would not go and enter into a crowd of people who are protesting. Strong bodies wouldn't do that because they know they cannot control that situation. They don't know who they're dealing with, and they can get caught up in something that would cause them to go to jail or get hurt. So strong people would not put themselves in positions to be hurt or to be thrown in jail. Weak bodies would, just so you know that. Because that's how the decision-making process manifests on a strong body, is that you would not put yourself in a position to be hurt or be thrown in jail for any reason. You would follow the laws of the community as well as the laws of your body. The body doesn't want to die. Okay. So anyways, that's really all I have. Okay. But I wanted to just, yeah. And we did trot down memory lane. And that's pretty awesome, Kevin, that we have memory lane to trot down. And the fact that you're 6'3", which means that, and then I think, was it Patricia was saying that she was 5'6", now she's 5'3", but we don't know what that really means. Okay. And she's, I don't know what level she's on the J-Juice. So I don't make it mean anything at this point. There is no one that is 100%. I mean, is there anyone that has sort of like I don't know. I can't even, you all know, really, truly, you all know if you're on that life trajectory or on that death trajectory. You'll know by how much you're taking in. You'll know by how many healing symptoms you have. You'll know by how your view of the world, and then what you post on Facebook, and then what you're focusing on. So we'll see if being tall or having no period is what it's meant to be as far as our adaptation to this current atmosphere. And that's what we're also looking for and researching, is if our current atmosphere and the J-Juice on our bodies, how it's ultimately how it's going to manifest in the biodiversity. Okay. So it's a lot, but really isn't. It's just understanding the world that you live in. So a balanced human, I'll end this on this note. A balanced human would neither die or reproduce if the internal external environment was relatively balanced. Yeah. What I need to say, a balanced human, because I see this redundant, but a human would neither die or reproduce if the internal external environment was relatively balanced. I'll chew on that. Okay, you guys, have a good day. Good way.